The moment you realize your entire life fits in the back of a van, something shifts in your brain permanently. We spent months crawling through 7 of the most popular van life builds in America, sleeping in them, cooking in them, sweating in them, and freezing in them. And what we found will either save you thousands of dollars or completely change which van you thought you wanted. One of these vans costs twice as much as the others to buy and is nearly impossible to find parts for. One of them is so perfect it almost feels like cheating. There are roughly 45 million Americans paying more than 30% of their income on rent right now. That number comes from the federal government's own housing data, and it has been climbing every single year since 2008. In cities like Austin, Denver, and Phoenix, that number is significantly higher. A one-bedroom apartment in Denver averaged over $1,700 a month in 2025. In Austin, it crept past $1,800. And in Los Angeles, the number becomes genuinely difficult to say out loud without laughing or crying, depending on your disposition. What that pressure has done, among other things, is push a significant and growing number of Americans toward a decision that would have seemed extreme 15 years ago and now barely raises an eyebrow. They are moving into vans. Not because van life looks good on social media, though it does, and we will get to that. Not because they read a blog post about minimalism and felt inspired, but because for a growing segment of the American population, a well-built cargo van represents something a lease agreement stopped being a long time ago: a financially survivable place to live. The van life movement was already gaining momentum before the pandemic. After it, the thing exploded. Searches for van conversion on YouTube tripled between 2019 and 2022. Facebook groups dedicated to van builds went from hundreds of members to hundreds of thousands. And the used cargo van market felt that pressure immediately. A Ford Transit that sold for $12,000 in 2018 was listed for over $22,000 by 2022 for the exact same year and mileage. The demand became real enough to move prices in a way that financial analysts actually noted. But here's the problem nobody talks about enough. Choosing the wrong van does not just cost you money, it costs you months of your life. A bad van choice means a build that fights you at every turn, a drivetrain that leaves you stranded in a town with one mechanic who has never seen your engine before, or a layout so cramped that you are folded in half every morning trying to make coffee. We decided to do this properly. 7 vans, real testing, real numbers, and a genuine answer to the question everyone asks before they buy. Before we get into the vans themselves, you deserve to know exactly how we ran this test, because we are not just ranking these things by which one looks best parked next to a mountain range at golden hour, which, for the record, is a completely useless metric unless you are a screensaver. We evaluated 7 vans across 7 categories: livability, which covers ceiling height, cargo volume, sleeping length, and ventilation options; build friendliness, meaning how easy the van is to actually convert without a welding certification and a trust fund; reliability and drivetrain track record over 100,000 miles; parts availability, which matters enormously when you are 200 miles from the nearest city; stealth, because not every overnight spot is a campground and not every neighbor is friendly; resale value; and total cost of ownership, which includes purchase price, insurance, fuel, and the repairs you will realistically face in the first 3 years. We talked to full-time van lifers, professional van builders, independent diesel mechanics, and people who had owned multiple vans and had the receipts to prove it. We are not guessing here. We drove these vans, we slept in them, we cooked in them at altitude in the middle of July, which is either research or punishment depending on how you look at it. Van number 1, the Ford Transit. If you have spent more than 11 minutes watching van life content on YouTube, you already know this van. The Ford Transit is the most converted cargo van in North America, and that status is not accidental. Ford introduced the Transit to the American market in 2015, replacing the aging E-Series, and builders immediately recognized what they had on their hands. The high-roof Transit extended cargo version gives you approximately 148 inches of cargo length and just over 81 inches of standing height. That means most people can stand completely upright inside their own home. That sounds like a small thing until you have spent a week living in something where you cannot, and then it becomes the only thing. The Transit's build friendliness is genuinely impressive. The walls have pre-existing ribs that act as natural channels for wood framing. The floor is flat, which sounds obvious but is not universal across vans. And because approximately half of all van conversions in America are transits, the online builder community for this specific vehicle is staggering. There is a forum, a YouTube tutorial, a Facebook group, and a Reddit thread for nearly every single problem you will encounter. Someone has already solved it. Someone has already documented the solution with photographs. Parts are available everywhere. A Ford dealership exists in virtually every mid-sized city in America. An independent mechanic who knows the Transit's 2.0-liter EcoBoost or the 3.5-liter V6 is not hard to find. The drivetrain is not exotic. It is not precious. It is a Ford. Now, here's the thing nobody warns you about. The Transit has a known issue with its turbocharger coolant lines, specifically on the EcoBoost engine, that can cause overheating if it is not caught early. It is a well-documented problem in the builder community, which means parts and fixes exist, but it is the kind of thing that can blindside someone who buys a high-mileage Transit without knowing to check for it. Always pull the service history. Always. Stealth rating is solid. It is a common enough van that it does not attract attention. Resale value is strong precisely because demand remains high. Cost of entry in 2025 for a used high-roof extended Transit in good shape was running between $22,000 and $32,000 depending on year and mileage. It is popular for a reason. And popularity, in this specific case, is a genuine advantage. Van number 2, the Mercedes Sprinter. And here we are. The van that launched 1,000 Instagram accounts. The Mercedes Sprinter is, without question, the most photographed van in the history of van life content. It is long, it is tall, it has that distinctive high roofline that photographs beautifully against a canyon backdrop at sunrise. And if you have the budget and the patience for it, it is genuinely an excellent van. The key phrase in that sentence is budget and patience. A used Sprinter in good condition in 2025 was running between $28,000 and $45,000 for a mid-range year and mileage. That is before you build it. That is before you put a single piece of wood inside it. You are already starting at a significant financial disadvantage compared to most of the other vans on this list. But the cost of purchase is not even the expensive part. The expensive part is what happens when something breaks. Mercedes Sprinters require Mercedes-trained technicians for many of their systems. The diesel engine, specifically the BlueTech emission system, involves components that independent mechanics in smaller cities frequently will not touch. The DEF system, the diesel particulate filter, the AdBlue setup on certain years, these are not components you can ask a small-town mechanic to sort out on a Tuesday afternoon. Several full-time van lifers we spoke to described being stranded in rural areas for multiple days waiting for a dealership appointment or a specialist to drive out. One woman described a repair bill from a Sprinter dealership in Albuquerque that was higher than 2 months of rent at her previous apartment. She laughed when she told us. It was the laugh of someone who has made peace with a thing. The Sprinter's interior dimensions are excellent. The ceiling height on the high roof version is comparable to the Transit. The cargo length is generous. The build community is large, though slightly smaller than the Transit community. Who does the Sprinter make sense for? Someone with a higher budget, access to a Mercedes dealer network in the areas they plan to travel, and a mechanical comfort level that includes budgeting for dealer-level repairs. If that is you, this is a beautiful van to live in. If that is not you, keep reading. Van number 3, the Ram ProMaster. Nobody ever puts a Ram ProMaster on their vision board. Nobody has a ProMaster as their desktop wallpaper. And that is a genuine shame, because this van is significantly better than its reputation suggests, and its reputation is mostly just that people forget it exists. The ProMaster is Fiat-derived, which immediately makes certain people nervous, and we understand that instinct, but hear us out. The high-roof extended ProMaster has a cargo length of approximately 144 inches and a ceiling height that beats the Transit by about an inch, which sounds meaningless until you are the person who is 6 feet 2 inches tall, and suddenly it is the only measurement that matters in your life. The front-wheel drive configuration surprises people. Most cargo vans are rear-wheel drive, and the conventional wisdom says front-wheel drive is worse for a heavy-loaded build. In practice, the ProMaster handles a loaded build well, and the front-wheel drive layout creates a flat, uninterrupted floor with no rear differential hump, which simplifies certain build designs considerably. The ProMaster is also typically the cheapest van on this list to purchase. In 2025, a used ProMaster in the target mileage range was running between $15,000 and $24,000, making it genuinely accessible for someone building on a tighter budget. The deal breaker for serious builders is reliability. The ProMaster's track record past 150,000 miles is meaningfully less consistent than the Transit or the Sprinter. The transmission in particular has generated enough documented complaints in the van life community that we cannot recommend it without that caveat. If you are planning shorter trips or you buy one young with lower miles, that risk is more manageable. If you are planning to drive coast to coast repeatedly with a full build inside, that is a conversation to have with a mechanic before you sign anything. Van number 4, the Chevy Express and the GMC Savannah. These two vans are mechanically identical. General Motors has been building them in essentially the same configuration since 1995, which is either a testament to a design that worked or evidence of a profound corporate lack of imagination. Possibly both. The answer is probably both. What the Express and Savannah have going for them is something that matters enormously when you are trying to live in a vehicle full-time: bulletproof reliability. The Vortec V8 engine in these vans has one of the strongest long-term track records of any engine in the American cargo van market. Mechanics who have never heard of van life know this engine. Parts are cheap and available at auto parts stores in towns so small they do not have a traffic light. You can find someone who can work on a Chevy Express engine in virtually every county in America. The van life community almost entirely ignores them. In terms of social media presence, the Express is invisible. You will not find 12-part build series about them on YouTube. You will not see them parked at van life meetups in Moab. And the reason for that has nothing to do with the drivetrain. It has to do with the ceiling. The standard Cargo Express tops out at around 59 inches of interior height. There is a raised roof option through third-party conversions, but it adds significant cost and complexity. For someone who is 5'5", this is livable. For someone 5'10" or taller, it is a van you crouch in, which is not a van you live in happily for any extended period of time. If you are shorter, or if you are building a stealthy urban setup where standing height is less critical, this is one of the most underrated vans on this entire list. The drivetrain alone makes it worth considering. Van number 5, the Ford E-Series Econoline. Ford built the E-Series for over 50 years. 50 years, from 1961 to 2014, when it was finally replaced by the Transit. In that time, Ford produced more E-Series vans than any other cargo van in American history, and that production volume has a very specific consequence for anyone buying one today. There are parts everywhere, cheap parts at junkyards, parts on shelves, parts that a mechanic in the middle of rural Nevada will recognize on sight. The E-Series is to cargo vans what the AK-47 is to firearms. Not the most refined option available, but it will work under conditions that would destroy something more sophisticated, and you can find what you need to keep it running almost anywhere. The challenge with the E-Series is age. The newest one is over a decade old at this point. Many of the builds you will encounter are pushing 200,000 miles or more. Rust is a serious concern depending on what part of the country the van spent its life in. A rust-free E-Series from the American Southwest is a different vehicle than the same year and model from Minnesota or Ohio, where road salt has had a decade to introduce itself to the undercarriage. The wheel well intrusion is a real build challenge. The rear wheel wells on the E-Series eat into the cargo floor in a way that complicates certain furniture layouts. Experienced builders work around it. First-time builders underestimate it regularly. Ceiling height on the standard cargo is similar to the Express. There were factory high roof options on certain years, and those are worth hunting for if you need the headroom. Buy one young if you can, or buy one with a documented service history and a pre-purchase inspection from a mechanic you trust. Van number 6, the Nissan NV. Nissan discontinued the NV in 2021, and that decision is still causing problems for people who own one. The NV was, in many ways, a genuinely impressive van. The high-roof version has one of the tallest interiors of any cargo van ever sold in the American market. The V8 engine option was powerful. The cargo space was enormous. On paper, it ticked a remarkable number of boxes, and then Nissan walked away from it. When a manufacturer discontinues a vehicle, the parts pipeline does not stop immediately. But it slows, and then it slows more, and then you are standing at a dealership service counter in 2025 being told that the part you need is on back order with no estimated arrival date, and the independent parts suppliers are starting to get creative with their substitute recommendations. Several NV owners we spoke to described a growing difficulty sourcing specific components, particularly anything related to the emission system and certain transmission components. One builder in Colorado described calling 6 dealerships across 3 states for a part that would have been available same day for a Transit. He eventually found it, but it took 8 days. If you find an NVE with very low miles and a clean history at a genuinely good price, and you are a mechanically inclined person who is comfortable sourcing parts with patience and persistence, it can work. But the discontinued status is a real risk that compounds every year, and we cannot recommend it broadly for someone building their first van. Van number 7, the Toyota Hiace. Every van life forum has at least one thread titled something like, "Why can't we have the Hiace in America?" And the replies are always the same mix of genuine mourning and barely contained frustration. The Toyota Hiace is, in the markets where it is sold, one of the most beloved utility vans ever built. It has been in continuous production since 1967. The reliability record is extraordinary, even by Toyota's already extraordinary standards. The build community in Australia, New Zealand, and Japan is massive and deeply experienced. The van is well regarded, well documented, and genuinely excellent. It is also not sold new in the United States, has not been since 1986. You can import one through the gray market under the 25-year import rule, which allows vehicles that are at least 25 years old to be imported without meeting current federal safety and emissions standards. That means a Hiace from the late 90s or early 2000s is theoretically importable today. Several specialty importers operate in this space, primarily on the West Coast. The landed cost of a gray market Hiace import in good condition was running between $18,000 and $28,000 in 2025 by the time you factor in the vehicle cost, shipping, import duties, and broker fees. And then you own a Japanese market van with a right-hand steering wheel for which American parts availability is essentially a function of how good your relationship with an importer is. For a certain kind of person, that is the whole appeal. We understand that completely. But it does not make our list of practical recommendations for someone building their first van life setup from scratch. And now, the winner. We have been building to this. You have probably already guessed it. And if the logic of everything we have laid out has been tracking for you, you are probably right. The Ford Transit is the clear winner of this test. Not because it is the most exciting van, it is not. Not because it photographs the best, it does not. Not because it has the lowest purchase price. Several vans on this list cost less to buy. The Transit wins because it is the best answer to the actual question, which is not which van looks best, but which van gives a real person, living a real life, the best chance of building something livable, affordable, durable, and maintainable without a support network of specialized mechanics and a generous emergency fund. The ceiling height is there, the cargo length is there, the build community is the largest and most documented of any van on this list, which means when you hit a problem at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night in the middle of a build, someone has already solved it and written it down. The parts are available, the mechanics are everywhere, the resale market is strong enough that if your life changes and you need to sell, you are not trapped. The high roof, extended transit in the diesel configuration gets respectable fuel economy for a vehicle of its size. The rear-wheel drive handles well loaded. The flat floor makes building straightforward. The ribs on the walls give you natural anchor points for framing without having to fabricate custom solutions. The one van that almost stole the crown was the Ram ProMaster, specifically for budget-conscious builders who are planning shorter builds and can accept some long-term reliability, uncertainty in exchange for a lower purchase price and a genuinely excellent interior volume. If your budget tops out below $20,000 and you need standing height and cargo space, the ProMaster is worth a serious look. Just go in with your eyes open about what happens after 150,000 miles. But for the full picture, across all 7 categories, the Transit is not even close. Before you go spend $30,000 on a van, there are things nobody tells you in the glamorous 12-minute YouTube build tour, and we would be doing you a disservice if we did not say them out loud. The first is rust. A pre-purchase inspection by an independent mechanic is not optional. It is mandatory. Rust on the frame or the subfloor of a cargo van is not a cosmetic problem. It is a structural one, and repairing it costs more than the van is worth in severe cases. Pay the $150 for the inspection every time. The second is build time. The average first-time solo builder takes between 2 and 6 months to complete a functional van build working on weekends. The average first-time builder also underestimates that timeline by about 40%. Have somewhere to live during the build. Do not assume you will finish in 3 weeks because someone on YouTube finished in 3 weeks. That person had a workshop, a second person helping, and probably a lot of footage on the cutting room floor. The third is the question of why. This sounds like a soft question, but it is actually the most practical one on this list. Someone converting a van to save on housing costs in an expensive city has completely different build priorities than someone planning to travel full-time. Someone who works remotely and needs a reliable power system has different needs than someone doing weekend trips. Someone who is 6 feet 4 inches tall has a fundamentally different set of options than someone who is 5 feet 6. The van does not determine the life. The life you are planning determines the van. Get clear on that before you touch a tape measure. And the fourth, the one that catches people most off guard, budget for the unexpected. Whatever number you have in your head for the total build cost, add 30%. Not because you are planning to waste it, because a converter fan that costs $80 ships damaged, because the plywood you cut wrong is not returnable, because you will change your mind about the kitchen layout after you have already built it once. Every builder we spoke to, every single one, said they spent more than they planned. The ones who had budgeted a buffer handled it fine. The ones who had not learned an expensive lesson. There are 745,000 people in America who do not have a front door to lock tonight. And then there are people who chose to trade their front door for a set of van doors, not out of desperation, but out of a deliberate decision about how they want to live and what they are willing to spend to do it. Those are two very different situations, and it is worth holding both of them in your head at the same time because they share a common thread. Housing in America has become complicated enough, expensive enough, and unstable enough that a growing number of people at every income level are rethinking what home even means. A 40-year-old remote worker in Denver who sells his apartment and moves into a transit is not the same as a woman sleeping in a Honda Civic in a church parking lot in Laurel, Mississippi. But both of them are responding to the same broken math, and both of them, in their own way, decided to stop waiting for the system to fix itself and built something themselves. The van is not the life, the van is just the container. The life is the work you take with you, the places you decide to go, the people you are when nobody is watching you parallel park in a Walmart lot at midnight. 7 vans, months of testing, one clear winner. But the best van is ultimately the one that fits the life you are actually building, not the one that looks best in someone else's Instagram feed. If this changed how you are thinking about your build, hit subscribe. We cover stories like this every week, the kind that cut through the noise and give you real answers to questions that actually matter. And the video on screen right now goes deeper on the actual build costs inside a transit conversion, number by number, no guessing. Click it and keep going.